here we go again. Okay. We are spiritual beings trapped in a physical body. That's the idea, right? We are spiritual beings trapped in a physical body. We are also all connected mentally, but this connection is now not operating very much. I mean, it's still operating, but we are not aware of it. And because also thought creates reality, human thought creates reality. Therefore, if you think about those three things, right? We're spiritual beings in a physical body. So the physical body is not what we kind of really are. That's just our vehicle in this physical domain, because it's a physical world that we live in. So we come here and have to be in a physical body to be in this physical earth. As spiritual beings, and this is very hard to believe, and I didn't believe it for most of my life until very, very recently. I thought it was all physical in this domain. So I was like most people. I did not believe too much in the spiritual, right? I know we talk about spiritual, and we all know that we're all emotional and feelings and all that sort of stuff. So we consider that spiritual, like if we get passionate about something, that sort of thing. But that's really not what I'm talking about. I suppose I'm talking more of a spiritual, religious almost spirituality in a way, even though I'm trying to avoid talking about religion, because the different religions of the world are operating through the entity that controls the earth, the godlike entity that controls the actual earth. So in a way, even the religions do not really worship the God that they're directly think they're worshipping, shall we say. They're kind of, the God is operating through those religions, all the religions. That isn't to say, because I don't want to put my own beliefs there. I just want to put some ideas out there. I might have some beliefs myself, but I'm trying not to give them to you. I want to just put forward the different ideas, and you can come to your own whatever you think, because it's for each individual to make their own reality on this planet. And that's exactly what happens, because that's what I was saying, that the points, I've got to try to remember the points, because this is even difficult for me, even though I'm aware of it, but even I still find it hard to believe and to grasp. And it's for you to think whether it's true, but you would have to really perhaps see it. You really will have to open your eyes and look for it, because if I didn't actually see it and experience it and then look for it, I would ignore it too, because it comes down to the thing of what I was saying before, is that most of the time, even when we get things happen to us, we think it's all random and we put it down to coincidences. I'm saying it's not. And I'm not saying that means everything's predetermined either. No, because it's not. Because human thought creates reality. So if human thought creates reality, then it means it's constantly changing. So we do have control over it, but we don't have control over it if we don't have control over our thoughts, and most of us don't, because we think that, like for instance right now, and I've done this all my life, I've thought if I think something bad, it doesn't matter, as long as, like if I think something bad about someone, say, I say to myself, it doesn't matter, because if I don't actually go and physically hurt that person or say something to them, I'm not really doing any harm. It's inside my head. I'm saying, no, it's not. Human thought creates reality. This is the it's both, I suppose you could say it's both something very mind-blowing and a revelation, but it's also very disturbing and tragic, because if you're not aware of this, and if you haven't got control of it, as most of us haven't, and even I haven't, even though I'm aware of it, but I still haven't got control over it because it's just too hard for me to get my head round after a lifetime of living and being conditioned a certain way. Plus the fact that our thoughts are continually being, um, how should I say, influenced by what's around us too, because like, you can think, but the thing is, we are largely thinking because of what's around us, like I am. In other words, if I go outside, or even if I'm in my house, or whatever, wherever I am, it doesn't matter. You are influenced by what your surroundings are. It would be very hard for me to think pleasant thoughts, even if I knew right now, if I'm in a war zone, right, and everything around me is not good, then it is very hard for me to think pleasant thoughts, even if I know that my thoughts can create reality and perhaps change that war zone a little bit. But you know what I mean? Because I'm still going to be so bombarded with that's around me. I'd have to be a mastermind, one of these truly enlightened people, like there have been those. I'm not one of them. I'm at the start. I'm right down the bottom, but we're a bit like that saying, that religious saying. That's the only reason I bring religion in sometime, is because not only is there a bit of history, which I've now realised, but there is some truth in the Bibles and different things, but not all of it. And it is very confusing. So unless you become aware and really look for the truth, that's hard too. But a bit like that, was it Jesus? Be in this world, but not of this world. See, that's someone who has mastered their thoughts. That's an individual who's mastered their thoughts and mastered reality, and able to create reality with the thinking, because, in other words, they're still maintaining a pleasant, even godlike thinking, good thinking. I'm just using that particular individual as an example, despite what goes on around them. Now, most of us cannot do that. I know I can't, but this is the essence of it. This is the danger, because we can't, because we aren't enlightened enough, have not got to a higher level. We are creating reality with our thoughts, but we are unaware, because we do not think that if our thoughts are just in our head, that they create reality. We only think we create reality with our hands and by our actions directly. And even if we speak, we think that is an influence, which is true, because we are influenced by what's around us. We're influenced by what other people say, what the TV says, and everything that we take into our thinking, all our knowledge, even, it's all what we're taking in, but it's not our actual thinking. Anyway, well, I'll try to recap, because it's hard for me. It's very hard because I'm not an intellectual or anything, as you can well see. Um, we're spiritual beings in a physical body. We are all connected, and our thought creates reality, or can create reality. The reason that we have not got control over this, and why the world is in such a mess, you could say, because a lot of people would certainly think it is because we do not have control of these three things, and we do not acknowledge them, and we do not think they are real. And even I still am operating in the old world where I think it is all a physical reality. Everything has a reason behind it. Everything is just random. There's no coincidences. There's my thought is only valid if I can put it into practice in a material way, or get someone else to do something. That's how I still think. But I now think that the opposite to that is true. But the reason it is not working, I guess what I'm trying to say is that we could change things a lot just with our thinking. Just every individual on the planet could change things just by their thinking, as opposed to fighting and actually physically doing things and even using other people to do things. But if we do not know that and do not acknowledge that and do not operate that way, and actually can't operate that way very efficiently now because we are disconnected mentally. See, the thing is, we're spiritual beings in a physical body. We are all connected, and our thought creates reality. But I alone, as one little individual amongst 8 billion people, if we're all connected, even if I was thinking the best things in the world and got control of my thinking, in other words, even if I'm one enlightened human being like some that have been, very few, there's a few that are at that level, they cannot change the world because they are only one and they are all connected to everyone else. It has to be where human beings reconnect with one another mentally and acknowledge that all their thinking together creates the better reality or the reality they want, right? Because really, if human thought creates reality, if you're a mean person and you want it to be hell, well, you've already got that. But to be quite honest, that is the truth. We are this domain now is a hell world, a hell operating thing. It's in a negative thinking. It's at the lowest level. It's all about um, the duality that the God operates that controls the world, the love-hate, which we're given. We're given choice, right? It's a very confusing thing. We are given choice, and this is the thing. And we're given choice, and we can create reality without thinking, and we're all connected, so there's no reason we shouldn't all be one. Just right now, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to do anything. Just a mental thing. But we don't do it because instead we think, oh, there's separate countries, there's separate this, everything's we're not connected. We think that there's different types of people, different, and that is true because human thought is different. But that is because we have changed down through the centuries. We've lost touch with this reality that we're all connected mentally and that we create reality and that we're really spiritual beings, not physical beings. We have now become physical beings in a physical reality. And this is because the duality God that controls the world operates through technology, gives us that choice to choose technology, to choose the physical reality over our natural spiritual nature. Because what I'm saying is that if we are really originally spiritual beings, we have now become physical beings, but this is really only our vehicle for operating in this reality. This is actually not what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to think and create reality with our thinking jointly, because you can't do it alone. Because if we're all what I am saying is that an individual can think and create a little bit of reality, but it's going to be all muddled up and it's not going to operate as a whole. One individual cannot change the whole world. Um, and because of that, then even if a lot of people wanted a good reality, or say a different reality what there actually is, say a perfect world, as they say, whatever, I think most people have an idea what they'd think a perfect world would be. But it would have to be the complete reverse of everything that is, because everything in this reality is actually the reverse of what you would consider spiritual. Everything. And I mean everything. I mean, really, if I think about it, because it only just occurred to me recently, even down to small things, everything we do is in reverse of spirituality. Um, but also because we are not aware of what is really causing things, we do not acknowledge the true God of this world, and by that I mean the one that actually controls this physical domain and actually has the power over it and actually manipulates it through technology and through the way that we operate, because we live in a technological world, we live in a physical world, right? But we ourselves are not really that, but we have now become that. We now think we are physical, and we now think that we are, we buy into the illusion of our physicality, very much so, really. And we're all influenced by it, that's why we sort of care about, our appearance and what we're presenting and all those things that are there. We do not think that, like, what I'm saying to you now would probably matter to you less than how I look. You know what I'm saying? So maybe if I presented myself better and put it and was able to get my style going better, you'd probably buy um my message, shall we say, or what I'm trying, or the ideas that I'm saying better. Um, you know, but unfortunately, it's come to me too late. I'm no longer young, and I can't, you know, I can't, I can't go back and make myself young and pretty and carry on that way. So you'll just have to. You could even turn the picture off. You'd probably be better off doing that, because then you would just listen to the words and the ideas, and even the way you present your words and things will make a difference. How you come across, how you speak and stuff too, which is another thing. So the truth is not really that valid in this world. If it is the truth, it's really not that valid, because everything, like I say, we have now entered into the physicality, and the technology in particular is also more physicality. Um, it can be used for a benefit, but that's a choice too. But you have to be aware of whether you're using it for a benefit or whether it is a negative. Um, I personally don't think that technology is highly compatible with the natural physical body anyway. It's a bit like, I don't think it's compatible with this domain we live in, even though it is a physical domain. But originally it wasn't a technological physical domain, it was a natural physical domain, and it's now become a technological domain. And that's why, to some extent, I don't think that the individuals that are worried about the actual physical natural earth are kind of at a bit of a they also are kind of wasting their time the way they are trying to deal with the problems of this physical earth at the present time, because they're in kind of a delusion about it. Their intentions are good and they want a perfect world. But like I say, how can you get a perfect world if you don't know the truth of the world? And for a start, if you don't realize that we're spiritual beings, we are all connected, but we are now disconnected because of the physicality of this world. And 3, our thought combined creates reality. One individual's thought only creates, because we're all connected, but we're now disconnected. In fact, we're now connected through artificial means, whereas before we were connected naturally. I've said this before, okay? But because of that, you have to have a hell of a lot of individuals thinking the right way to clean everything up, shall we say, if that's what you want. Because there again, it's what you want. Don't forget, because your thought, how you think, if we're all thinking negative, which it's hard not to, because like I say, if we're living in a war zone, I know I am, and that really means that then it is very hard to think happy and pleasant all the time. So actually you are being bombarded with negativity left, right and centre, and we are in this world, I think, whichever way you look at it. You only have to turn the news on to see that. And if you buy into it, if you believe it, because it is an illusion anyway, it is an illusion. Even though this is a physical world, it is a technologically controlled physical world. The God that rules it tests us all the time. Duality, love, hate, right, wrong, always there, playing and confusing, and it's like a trick. It's there to deceive and to push you in certain directions, and you have to then make a choice to go another direction. But if you believe everything, and if you buy into it, then you will go in the direction that you've chosen to. But it's choice still, and it is a test that way. It's a real test. The God of the world, his duality and technology, that's how he operates. But even he is still testing. Even though he's a duality God that creates confusion and chaos, it depends on how you look at this God and entity in a way, if you want to put it that way. Some people might see it as very malevolent, some people might see it as benevolent, depending on how your mind is, how you think about it. It's probably better. I rather, even though I don't actually, would not, because I think that we are spiritual beings and we're actually in the wrong domain, it's very easy for me to then be negative even about this whole situation. But I think the better people are the ones who, a few enlightened ones, and there's not many, that actually try to even see a positive thing out of that choice and out of that, almost like saying you have to go through the hell to come out at the light at the other side. And this is how a few enlightened ones, I'm not one of them, I have to admit, I say, why do we have to go through it? Like, if we were spiritual beings, we're all connected and our thought creates reality. We should really be able to get on top of it. We shouldn't have to go through all this trickery and all this mind deception, shall we say, that really has pretty much taken us. I think that we buy into the illusion. We are not making the right choices. I know I haven't most of my life. So this is the thing, you believe the reality that's around you, and it's a physical reality that is very hard to escape. It is very hard to feel happy if you're in a war zone, as I've said before. And that, I think that's common sense to most people. In other words, if you're fighting all the time, some people are really in a war zone. And some of us are physically attacked, which is then very hard to feel pleasant. Others are merely in the mind war zone game, whether it be fighting with their spouse or fighting with what they don't like about what's around them, and yet they probably could smile a bit more. But I say that the more you are attacked, the harder it is then to rise. Very hard. Almost impossible. But if we don't, then you succumb and make the world more negative, because that's how it will work. It will be that duality will be there, and it's like there's positive and negative. And at the moment, the world is right in a very low negative thing, to where it's at so low, and it's actually worse than what it appears to be, because people think they're aware. People think they know what the problems are. You see what I'm saying? And they can see that there are problems, but they still think that those problems are caused by them, or caused by, and it is in some ways caused by them, because their negative human thinking as a whole does create a negative reality. But it's not actually our fault if we are not aware of the spiritual, and not aware of the connection, and not aware that our thought creates reality, and also if we are not connected anyway, but we are connected by artificial means, and that gives us a different reality. That's not giving us the true reality. Technology is different to the spirituality. I don't know how some people might think about, can you be technical and spiritual? I think that may be even a question for some people if they buy into what I'm saying. And one would have to think about that. But you would have to say, why would you, if you were a spiritual being, if you were all connected, and if your thought creates reality, and if all those things were working, if we were all spiritual beings, all connected and all thinking correctly to create a good reality, would you need this physical technical domain, would it be a benefit to you? You know? So that's, you know, the thing. But like I say, this is not, we are not aware of this. We are not operating that way. I'm not either. I'm just putting it out there and I'm saying that, but this, I think, is the solution, because I think even if you're a negative being, even if you were you know, I think, personally, I think that regardless of whether you're human, halfway human, or totally not human, I think that, you know, this physical domain, we're all stuck in it for the period of time that we're here. So it's not actually a benefit to any entity on this earth, I don't think, to be in the negative world. Even if I don't care if you're rich and famous and doing really well, I still think you'd be better off in a positive world, because a negative world, you know, if you're a spiritual being, you will only benefit in this physical domain with physical things, but you will not reach your full spiritual capacity. The gifts that you are naturally meant to have will not be yours. Because if we are spiritual beings and we're all connected but we're disconnected, and our thought creates reality, but we are not creating a reality with our thinking at all. We are creating it with technology or other things, and we're living in the physical domain, shall we say, because if you're only living with your thinking in the physical domain, your thinking is not going to create a reality. So, so what I'm trying to say is that you could have perhaps that, if you think about it, that does kind of make it fairly, if your thought creates reality and you're aware of it and you're connected to the other human beings, and that is how you're meant to be, and that is your natural ability. Your abilities could be very limitless, couldn't they? I'm just speculating here, but couldn't they? Human combined thought, if it can create reality, what is the potential of that? And instead, we are living in this world that is a world of restriction, a world of physicality, and a world where we do not even have that freedom to realize that. Instead, we think our freedom is if we can get richer and more money, then we'll have more freedom to buy more things and to live a better life. And that is true for some people, and certainly they are at the top of this world, and they are doing not bad, certainly by my standard and a lot of people's. But if we are spiritual beings and all combined and are all connected and our thought creates reality, potentially we could probably create much more than what even these people that are at the top have got. But don't forget that, I suppose, you know, if they are more in connection with the God that rules the planet, they would have even much more than what we would have, even what we would imagine they would have. But still, surely the human thought combined as spiritual beings would be, could perhaps be greater, I would think, because it would be, I mean, I can't even imagine that, but it would be limitless, that combined thing. But like I say, it's not operating now. It's in fact, you know, I feel very isolated to even think that and to realise that there could be potential, but, you know, like I'm sort of sitting here thinking that potential is going to be all wasted and just down the drain, and we're all going down more into the physical domain, thinking that that is where we can expand ourselves and solve all our problems. I'm not saying we couldn't solve some problems by that method, because we might even have to, but if we did get it together, shall we say, kind of, and then start to really connect and actually get those wires that have been disconnected. We're all human beings. It's like a hive thing, really. It's like a beehive where all the bees are connected, every single one on the planet. if we could get those wires working again and become aware of it, and the thought creates reality, why couldn't a lot of problems be solved? But instead we will use the physical domain to try and solve those problems. And I'm just saying, is that what, would that make sense? But you would have to say, you would have to then say, is what those points that I've mentioned, the spiritual beings in a physical body, but we are living in this physical world and we think that is all there is and we operate through it. We are ruled by it. Technology covers the planet, covers the world, covers the earth. I'm using those three things because even that is such an illusion, because it is also, because it is ruled by high technology, much higher than what we can comprehend, because the God that rules is highly technical. We are being tested in this world of illusion as spiritual beings, but we are not aware we are spiritual beings and that we're connected and that we can change the reality with our thought. So we've got a real problem, I think. And but you're not, but unless you hold to the belief that those things are possible and start looking around and actually saying, hey, maybe we should try testing this out, because I've tested it out just in small ways. But it's no use to me because I'm in a war zone and I'm powerless because I'm only one separate individual. And also, I'm not an enlightened being. I'm down here and I'm very negative because of surroundings. So I do not have potential to actually change the reality much. But I will say this, that I do see individuals, other human beings, and sometimes I've seen it myself, where the thought can bring about a little reality, but it's nothing that changes the world. It might be like to where you are, an example might be, you might think of a particular item or something, and then it might pop up, the next day or something. Now, most people will put this down to randomness, coincidence, some sort of synchronicity. I say this is because humans are creating reality, but they're not creating the right reality because they're not aware that just their little thoughts have any impact on reality. They think they're just thoughts. In fact, they think, hey, if I wanted a diamond ring, I'll have to find a physical money way to get that. My human thought, could not bring that into being. And as we are all connected, that's right. In reality, you'd have to be a pretty powerful human being on your own, a very enlightened being, to bring that into physicality directly for yourself. Even though you do have the power of creation, but it is meant to be a combined thing, because it's no good being like I have all my life, where I thought I'm a loner, I'm isolated, I'm very separate from other human beings, because that's how we actually feel in this world. And I think this is why, because we do not, and we even become loners. I know I have. And that is because I've sort of wondered, why am I kind of half happy being a loner? That's because I'm so frustrated with the world around me, and with human beings, because I don't understand them. That's because we are all disconnected, but we're all meant to be connected. And that's why we feel like aliens in our own world, you know, and we are, because we are spiritual beings who are disconnected. And the world of this physical world, even though we buy into it and we kind of love it in a way, because I'm not saying that you couldn't, that as spiritual beings we can't have the physical things. We can. We create them, even, like as I thought that we could. That's it. It's your attitude towards them. It's if they rule you and you don't acknowledge what you really are, and don't create a good reality by your thinking. So I'm saying that you could, I think that usually once you enter too much into the physical domain, you lose your spirituality. I'm not saying that you couldn't keep it and have a very physical existence, and even have, like, you couldn't be rich and famous. But I'm saying that most people would not, because once you buy into that too much, because that is the way this world is, you know, and even the craving for that continuously, you know, is where you are acknowledging the physical and it predominates. I'm only trying to put it this way because it is a trick. It's not our fault that we've become this way, because I know myself, like I can't live without the physical things. This is the society, the world, the system that we live in. We can't live on our own without the technology and without the physical things. We've we're dependent on them now. We shouldn't be, because spiritual beings, we should be able to control our own reality, but we don't. We have no control over it now. We have entered in, we have been tested by the God of the planet, and we have failed the test. That's if you assume that, you know, that he's hoping that we will go the positive way. That's another question. I'm not going to say that, because there are different types of gods, I would think, you know. You know, we have this idea that gods are all good, but the God that rules our thing is, it's duality. You know yourself, look at the world, it's duality. There's no all good. It's good and bad. People don't even, I've even heard people say, oh, well, you know, we wouldn't know and appreciate love if we didn't also have hate. You know, and that is actually true, because this is a duality world. That is how we are conditioned. This is the world we come into. Whether it's meant to be that way or whether we could change it, that's, you know, to be thought of. Spiritual beings, human thought creates reality, all connected. What do you think? But no good if we're all in the physical, all in, and we use technology now for communication. We certainly don't use the wires where we're all connected. We might care about our fellow human being and care about, I see some people that really care and they're trying, but even if you don't have the means to know how to, it's funny, because if this is true, it really means the solution is kind of very simple, and yet we will be battling and doing everything the hard way to try and solve all the so-called problems and to try and create a better world. But in reality, we will be going further from that better world, because we will be using the wrong means to create that better world. You know, if you get what I'm putting forward, or at least speculating that way, and you know, because even the physical domain, right? As I said, you could be a spiritual person and still have physical things, but is a lot of the physical stuff that we have got in this world beneficial to ourself, not only as spiritual beings, but beneficial to this physical world, because it is an organic world as well, even though it is technological in a kind of nature, and I don't fully understand it myself, but it is ruled by technology, the illusion of it. But there is also an organic part to it, as you know, which has gone down quite a bit. That I guess I'm talking about what we would consider the wildlife, the natural world. And our technology has certainly defeated that, hasn't it? You know, and this is not because we have wanted to do that. That is because we use too much technology. You might say, well, how is that down to just using too much of the wrong things and whatever? Well, yes, it is, but that is all brought about by technology, because we don't create things naturally. We don't create natural things. You know, we should be able to have all the things we want if we could create them naturally, which we probably can do or could do, but we can't now. Instead, we have taken the technology path. I don't know whether I've explained that well, and even I find it hard to grasp. And you know, I can think of specific examples, but in doing that, you know, I would have to be scientific, and I don't think we really live in a true scientific world either, because if we are spiritual beings, then dare I say that some very spiritual beings would have probably also been, I just thought only this yesterday, they probably would have also been your greatest scientists, but they didn't come here and act as scientists because it's a bit like myself. If you know that kind of basic thing, and I've only just grasped it myself, but if it is all only about human thought creating reality, then what in the hell do you need science for? There is no science. We are the science. You see, all this science stuff, it does apply to this physical domain because we have made this physical domain our reality. So now we do operate through science and need it, and we have even made our bodies like that medically, shall we say. We do not control them ourselves. We control them through medicine and all this sort of stuff. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think that also, all these things, they're all connected, I think, just as we, are, whether we like it or not. So if we are really connected by an invisible cord, right? There's no point in saying we're all different or that we're all not, because, and, it's still a reality. If you believe that, to be even a physical reality, shall we say, because if we're spiritual beings, then that spiritual cord is a reality. Got to go.